Okay.
So nice to meet you, Mr. Stanley.
Just Stanley, please.
Okay, Stanley, Dean Stanley.
Thank you, no misters.
Hi. Hi, everybody.
Yay.
Welcome to the party. Yay. I love this.
I'll say
Hi,
it.
Dan.
My favorite thing about the virtual space is when you let people in and you see familiar faces. It's really sweet. I love it.
Warms the heart.
Warms the heart right up. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for spending your lunch hour with us. I was telling Ashley Kate, I've had some internet issues this morning. So I'm gonna fingers crossed I don't freeze out or drop out. But just pretend I'm talking if I somehow freeze. So my name is Jamie and I'm the program director for the CCM Alumni Network. Again, we're so thrilled you're here. This is the first of a new program that we've started. So it's for alumni by alumni. And whenever we have the opportunity to invite students, we want to invite our CCM students as well. It was a part of an open call that we did back in the fall. We wanted alumni to pitch ideas for workshops, programs, presentations, really whatever their heart desired. If they wanted to share something with the CCM community, we wanted to be able to give them that platform. So Ashley is the first for us to kick things off. A few logistical things. So Ashley Kate's going to talk for 35, 40 minutes or so. There's going to be lots of interaction in the chat. Feel free to keep your video on, yourself muted. We'll have time for Q&A at the end as well. I am going to hand things over to Dean Stanley Romanstein just to say a few words before we get started.
All right. Thank you, Jamie. Welcome, everybody. Excuse me. I'm Stanley Romanstein, and I am not only a two-time CCM alumnus, thank you very much, I am also in my third year as CCM's dean. So just remember, CCM is a place where any student can grow up to be the dean. We are in the 7th week of spring semester at CCM, almost halfway through the term. It's our 3rd semester of living in pandemic world. So for the first time in CCM's more than 150-year history, we're offering our students a balanced blend of online, face-to-face, and hybrid instruction. Most of our academic courses, the history of, the theory of, the appreciation of, all those courses are online. Ensembles are continuing to meet face-to-face, but they are socially distanced. If you're playing in an orchestra or singing in a musical theater ensemble, you're 6 to 10 feet away from the nearest other artist. If you're a wind player, you're sitting in a little plexiglass box, wearing a mask until it's time for you to play, but keeping everybody safe. And studio lessons, we're leaving to the discretion of teacher and student. They can best decide when they want to meet face-to-face and when they want to do things online. I've been impressed, and I think you would be too, by the creativity and ingenuity that I've seen from our faculty and students for the past 3 terms. Despite the pandemic, they are finding ways to create and express and communicate. It's the CCM way. We just find a way to get things done. As we do every spring semester, we've got one eye on the current term and getting things done over the next 8 weeks to the end of the semester. And the other eye is on finalizing next year's incoming class. Despite the pandemic, we've seen a 12% increase in applications to CCM.
Wow.
Last year we broke the 3,000 mark in applications for admission to CCM. This year we moved past 3,400 applications to CCM. We'll accept about 200 of those students. Faculty are in the process of making final admissions decisions. And after they say yes or no, then it's really in the hands of the prospective students. And we all wait to see, are they going to say yes to our offer to attend CCM, or are they going to choose one of our competitors? It's that last stage of the process, getting students to say yes to CCM, that's absolutely vital for us. And I have to tell you that scholarship support makes an enormous difference in that last stage in getting students into the door at CCM. I want you to know that when you make a gift, say to CCM's annual fund, and I'm sure you've heard from us about that, the contribution that you make, whatever size contribution it is, any contribution you make will go directly to student scholarships at CCM. Scholarships make that difference between getting a talented student to choose CCM or electing to go somewhere else for their education. So thank you very much for supporting CCM and our students. And again, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Please welcome our fellow CCM alumna, Ashley Kate Adams. Ashley Kate, over to you.
Thank you so much, Dean Stanley. Thank you for taking the time to join today and introduce me. Thank you. And I want to say thank you so much to Jamie for allowing me to have this opportunity. Hi, fam. It's good to see you. It feels so cool to be back home and to be talking creativity with all of you. I see some of the faces of my best friends while I was at school. Hi, Liz. There's a lot of my loved ones here watching. So thank you so much. The one and only Dan Gettler's with us. It's amazing. So thank you so much for being here today. Today, we're going to talk about one of the most sacred things to us, and that is our creativity. So thank you so much for joining me today and letting me be a part of your creative journey. As I say at the top of every single BYOP Live, this is a safe space and an open one. If anything I share ignites something in you, or you would like to speak or ask a question, please just let me know. I want to hear from you. So here's the first question, and you can write it in chat. How are you feeling today? How are you doing? So just write it in the chat. I'd love to see how you're feeling. I think as artists, that's one of the most important things, to like check in with where we're at, test the temperature inside. I'll take a look to see if anybody's written inside. You feeling good? You feeling tired? We've got Gail, she's feeling excited. I love that, I am too. And I gotta be honest, this morning I felt a little nervous. It feels different when you get to go back on your home turf and talk. Grateful to be here. Oh, I love that. Hey, Malik, great. I'm so glad you're great. Yay, I like all this great. I love Ready to Learn. I love oh my gosh, I love it. I love it, I love it, I love it. Amazing. Well, yes, Mitchell's living the dream. Yay, I love it. Above all, this is a conversation. So I want you to feel fully encouraged to talk with me about you and your creative journey. My goal is for us to remain connected and creative during this time. So BYOP is the creative consulting and project management that I offer through my very own production company, AKA Studio Productions. For those of you who are on here, and I know there are a few of you that know a bit about producing, you know that it is very much a lifestyle. So I wanted to be able to share these teachings and services on an hourly basis or in workshops such as this. So over the pandemic, the brand has grown rapidly, and we'll talk about that a little bit later in the power of the pivot. But we've been creating safe spaces for creatives to gather and to learn to take action through this pandemic. I'm going to begin with a question in the space. What in the heck was this past year, right? It was crazy. And for many of us, at minimum, it was a nightmare. Many of us were displaced from our creative jobs, and we had to face unexpected illness, or even worse, we had to face unexpected loss. And we had to move by choice, or maybe we changed cities. And at times we felt like maybe there has not been room for us in our creativity. But today, we're going to discuss creating room for ourselves and our creativity, regardless of being invited to show up or not, regardless of being asked to make something, regardless of Broadway or our local theaters being open, and regardless of our constraints or our budget, if you will, Or, as CCM faculty Richard Hess taught us, finding the freedom, right, within the confined space. Here's a disclaimer. Before we start celebrating and talking about the good stuff, what I first want to acknowledge is that it is okay to feel upset about this past year and how it may have affected you, your personal life, and your creativity. Grief is real, and we must acknowledge it before we can pick ourselves back up by the bootstraps again. And sometimes, right, it's like if we bypass this part, if we do it, it does always rear its ugly head. Reflection, taking inventory, right? It takes time and it takes space. And if more of this space is all you need today, that's what I want to encourage you to take. So let's dive in. I graduated from our school in 2009. Holy cow, it's been a little while, with a BFA in musical theater. And thanks to our school's incredible training, impeccable, incredible, phenomenal, mixed with some of my gumption, I made my Broadway debut at the age of 23 in the Tony Award-winning Broadway revival of La Cage aux Folles. Now, while that opportunity in the grand scheme of things came quickly for me, a really, really crazy thing happened within the first 24 hours of making my Broadway debut. I got told, after I had gone through my evening show and the first half, so act one of a matinee show, that the show would be closing. And any of my fellow performing arts majors on this chat, performers, how hard and grueling it is to go through a program like CCM, and especially to get to this mecca of, say, something like Broadway that you work for your entire life, right? To lose it within 24 hours, it was heartbreaking. So to my dear friends who may have lost your creative or Broadway jobs overnight, I deeply understand and know your pain. In an instant, because of this loss, my idea of security and success was immediately challenged. And I was faced with the grueling reality that many times in performing arts of any kind, what we mainly do for a living, and we don't get paid for it, is audition. And facing that reality caused me a lot of pain and sadness. I love to make things. That's why our school and attending CCM was like a playground for me. I love being with our community here like today, and I love creating. What this boiled down to was that I was seeking permission from others or an invitation from others to do what I loved to do, which was to create, to perform, to express myself, to commune with amazing humans just like you, and to tell stories. So the first rule of thumb that I want to share with you today is also the first chapter of my book, and it is: no one can give you permission to create but yourself. No studio head, no director, no head of your CCM program, no casting director, no art gallery owner, right? It is you and you alone that actually holds your fate and the will and the power to create your artistic career and your longevity within the arts. Regardless of anything else, it is you. You hold the power, you hold the keys. So a question I have for you, and feel free to share in the chat if you want: what do you need to give yourself permission to make or begin creating today? Is it a screenplay idea you've had for over a decade, but you've never sat down and figured out what program to write in? Have you always wanted to write original music or learn how to sew? Do you want to finally set aside an hour to figure out those crazy TikTok videos? And I know myself, I have struggled. Or is there a small business idea that you have, that you've been wanting to start or try for years and years, and you've been waiting this entire quarantine to dive into? Let's go a step further, right? So that's like projects, ideas, things we might want to do now. And this is a hard question. Is there an area or lane of expression that you feel called to do, but you haven't quite allowed yourself to explore? This leads me to part one of the creative process, and I like to think of it as your identity. So let's talk about taking inventory. Oh, I love this, Brenda. I love it. I'm going to read. I'm going to stop and read what Ms. Brenda said. Recreating what it is I do and make money doing it. That's right. Original music, having my voice heard. I love that, Sharon. And it's so important because it's the most authentic thing to you. Thank you so much for sharing this. So, next thing to put in the chat, when we're taking inventory and creating authentically, I want you to type in the chat how you identify or are perceived as an artist. So for me, I might say I'm an actor, producer, writer, and educator. I'm going to give you a second to write that in the chat. I'm going to take a look. Love it. Stage manager, production manager, actor. Rachel, I'm perceived as an actor, but I'm also a singer and dancer. I love it. Actor, student, actor, crazy lady with lots of boxes. Me too. Actor, student, director, producer, director, record producer. I know that one. It's my business partner, Mitchell Walker from CCM. Actor, singer, scholar. Ooh, Donna, producer, writer, creative strategist, editor, and publisher. Incredible. Thank you all for sharing. So now the really important question is how you are perceived or identify or expected to create as an artist. Does it actually match your insides? And if it no longer matches, and especially if you haven't allowed yourself to do this kind of exploratory work since we were on campus at school, I want to let you know it's okay. Our artistry is authentic as we are, and it is constantly changing. So we must never stop doing this inventory. Let's take a moment to talk about fear. That lovely thing that always pops up every time we try to bravely start something new or set out on a new creative journey. I believe that fear is twofold. There's first the fear of letting people down, right? If maybe we don't succeed or continue creatively the way people thought we would. And also there is the second, which is the fear of starting something new, right? It's like, how do we begin? And I began BYOP to debunk this fear, so we could gather in a safe space, whether it's one-on-one or in workshops such as these, so we can learn how to have good action steps to step forward and actually make our true, authentic, creative dreams come true. You don't have to answer this in the chat, but a challenge for you today is there something new that you should explore that might give you and your creative identity even more flexibility or happiness, right? We all measure success differently. To me, my success means happiness, flexibility, and living a lifestyle where I'm allowed to create the way I feel called to. The good news is all of our previous journeys, right, in history only inform where we're going next as creatives. And just because you add a project to your desk or your pile, or Elaine, it doesn't mean that you're completely locked off from the first place in which you started to create from. You can and will have it all if you are willing to do the work to fuse and to align. You are an artist first, my amazing friends. And what I mean is you are allowed to do more than one thing, right? There's nothing wrong with you if you went to college for acting and now you happen to be more passionate about painting. There's nothing wrong with you if you went to college for a choral, career, and then now you're more interested in behind the scenes work or being a producer. It makes sense to me because you're an artist. Now, I want to encourage you, if there are folks in your circles, yes, if there are folks in the circles that do not, encourage this type of fluid creativity, I want to encourage you to find a new orbit. It is the season of the multi-hyphenate, and it is here to stay. And this might also include your representation or people who support you or are a face for you within our arts community. If people aren't supportive of you and your fluid creativity, you might need to move on. Let's talk about part 2, inspiration and the idea. So let's say once you've gone through this identity work that you realize, okay, I've got this amazing idea or this task that I know that I must complete now, right? You're doing the work, you're reflecting, you've taken inventory, you feel called to build. So how in the heck do we know as crazy creatives that we're on to something or on the right path? The number one way I know I'm onto something is it creates energy. How many of you have ever shared a project idea with a friend, or a friend has shared a project idea with you and you just had to know more about it? So you kept asking questions. You kept asking, oh, well, where are you going to record that? Where are you going to film that? How are you going to construct that? Where are you going to paint that? That excitement that that conversation creates is energy. So when you as an artist are being truthful to your core and expressing yourself the way that you feel is most authentic to you, that usually creates energy. So when we build out our projects or idea, at this time, right, you have to become like your very own backup generator. So you're going to need to live and thrive upon your own energy and others to help you survive. We always have to get organized as creatives. How many here are organized? How many here like to write everything down? Yes, Lauren says organization equals bread and butter. How many of you are like, oh my goodness, I don't want to keep a schedule. I just want to wake up and do whatever I feel. Here's the deal. There's no right or wrong way, but there is your way, and you have to know what works the best for you so you can have your most productivity and others. Thank you, Lydia. Thanks for joining. The pandemic life is hard, y'all. We have used all of our adaptive energy trying to figure out how to function day to day. So, what are those things that we can do for ourselves as a creative to set ourselves up for success? The first thing I want to know is your artist's recipe. Now, what I mean by this is, when do you feel called to create the most? For me, it's late mornings or afternoon. I have to be in a quiet space with no one around. If I was in an office, I would never get anything done because I would spend the entire time trying to talk to people and ask them how they're doing. I have to use a paper planner, no digital for me because I have to write it down. And no matter how hard I try, and I'm so sorry, my desk will always be half of it cluttered because I work from my kitchen table. So take a second to share some of your artist recipe in the chat. When do you like to create the most? Are you morning like me? Are you like, I gotta wake up, get moving with my day, gotta do it in the afternoon? Or are you a night owl? And okay, Rachel, late at night. Lydia, late at night. Evening, after the kids are in bed. Wow, Jake. Late morning. Mitchell, middle of the night. And what's so funny and why this is important, right? And I'll use Mitchell as an example. Oh my gosh, you guys are amazing. Thank you. I'm going to use Mitchell as an example, right? He's my business partner. We recently started a record label together. Mitchell works best in the middle of the night, and I work best in the bright and early morning to probably about 2 p.m. So those things don't always line up. And it's okay. We can work whenever we can be most productive, but we have to be aware of each other's working patterns so we can work that into our strategy for our team and our business. So as I said, there's no right or wrong way to work as a creative, but we have to be able to articulate that and share that with our collaborators. So let's talk about one of the key ingredients that will help our art and vision to grow, and that is collaboration. Now, let me encourage you. Collaboration is hard. We are artists. We are imperfect people. And while I wish that everything could be honky-dory all the time, I do want to encourage my fellow creatives and alums on this chat to make sure that things are done properly, that you are protected, and that things are on paper before you begin your new creative business or idea. Here's some encouragement for you. If you created something, do not be afraid to take credit for it. You know, this is something that I struggled with for a very, very long time. If you create the room, you deserve to be in it. You need to speak up, speak proudly. If you are collaborating, make sure that you talk about terms. I know many of us, especially if we went to CCM, I have many people that are my friends, but we're also business partners and collaborators. And I know it's uncomfortable, but just send a quick email to talk about your intentions, responsibilities, and terms. You can always make an easy deal memo on Google Docs, and that does count as a contract. Even texting these days, right? If you're talking about terms for something, I don't encourage this, but even texting right now would hold up in a court of law if necessary. If you've written something over this pandemic, before you send it out or pitch it to maybe even a network or a school, right? Make sure that you register that. You can either send it, postmark it, you can send it to your mom's house. You just want to make sure that's postmarked. Or if you're extra spiffy, right? Say if you wrote a screenplay over this time, it's always good to register it with the Writers Guild of America, the WGA. Just Google it. It's a really great way to protect yourself. And if you do need to do that extra step, right? I know we have a publisher here and an editor. Always remember, if you're going to publish something to the public, to visit our US government and register it with copyright. If you ever feel extra squirrely, right? Sharing anything. Oh, Rachel, this is great. This is great. We're going to come right back to that. If you're ever feeling squirrely, right? Before you share your idea with someone, you can always ask them to sign an NDA, which is a non-disclosure agreement. And this is something that you can download and find online for free. It's basically stating that the creativity and the information that you share with the collaborator, they can't just go sit when it's possible kikiing with somebody, having coffee, and share that idea without your awareness or permission. I'm going to go back to something that's very important. Rachel just asked in the chat. Thank you so much. How do you ask for credit on a project? I never want to sound too pushy. Yes, I am the same way. And the problem is when we don't assert ourselves, oftentimes it can lead to like further misunderstanding or even feeling disrespected kind of in the working relationship as a creative. I always say transparency is key. So even if you're cross-checking like a price or a service, you can always say, hi, I just want to make sure that we have our terms clear so I can work most level-headedly and effectively for you. It's always good to state kind of what you need. And it's even more important, right? It's like if you created and developed an idea that you hand off to somebody else to further, compose or expand, or like, even if you hire on a co-writer or a director, say for a film, or, you're working with an editor for your novel, you need to make sure that everybody gets the appropriate credit. So, and yes, and Donna said, yes, you define terms within a contract, but that initial asking before the contract, you gotta be transparent, and you have to ask for what you need. And I just want to let you know, by asking for what you need and for everyone to clarify their terms, meaning, what you're doing, who you are, your titles, credit, back end, it's okay. So transparency is key. Asking is okay. And the point is, you will never sound too pushy by asking for what you need, right? Because we want to value ourselves. We want to take care of ourselves. And before you dive in, it's always good to do the terms first. So if anybody's starting something brand new, right, it's always easier to have these conversations up front instead of like having to do it in the middle of creating a property, right? So I also want to encourage us to take our time. I feel so much as artists, right? We want people to like us. We want people to be accepting of our arts. But when we're building out our team, it's like we have to treat our arts almost like money, right? It's like this sacred thing that we have in our vaults. And I just want to encourage you to use your discernment. Take your time, right? Are these people that you're wanting to collaborate, are they a true extension of you and your art? Do you do business a similar way, right? It's really good to ask those questions. And for those of you who are active in school, right, who might be actors, singers, and you're going to expand into the real world and start seeking an agent soon, you want to ask these questions of these people too. Just because you need somebody to submit you for work, at the end of the day, that's something that you can do for yourself and by yourself. So you want to make sure that the person who is helping you as your agent, or might be the face of you in the industry, right? You want to make sure that you have the same values and working ethics, right? So here's the third part, and I'm going to check my time. I'm going to speed up a little bit, that I want to discuss today. And it's actually the most important thing, and that is taking action. In my experience, this is the make or break, and this is what everything comes down to. Your productivity, following through, right? Actually creating a property and following it through from idea to premiere, right? It's action. Anybody can have a million and bazillion ideas. We went to school with a bunch of creative geniuses. We know this, but the difference that makes you go from point A to Z is, and it only is, the follow through. So let's talk about some quick strategy as to how you can follow through for yourself on a day-to-day basis. If anybody leaves this call and they're like, I talked to Ashley Kate, I'm ready to start writing a book, or I talked to Ashley Kate. I'm going to make my new original music album. Rock and roll. I'm here for you. Love you. If you're scared to death and you're like, I know I want to begin, but I don't know where to start, might I encourage an hour a day? Here's the thing. We went to CCM. We went through grueling training. You can do anything for an hour a day. Even if it's like you feel like you're a pinball, right? Pinball wizard, right? Going through the pinball machine. You can do anything for an hour a day. And I promise if you set a schedule and you show up for that one creative idea, entity, or project, you just make yourself do it for an hour a day. I promise you, within a few weeks, months, it will grow. And that hour a day that you spend trying to, say, write a screenplay or a play or a novel, it will turn into 2 or 3 hours. And then once that muscle, right, has been utilized and all juicy, you can continue showing up again and again on repeat. So that's something, it's been really helpful for like clients, students, the hour a day. That's definitely one of the favorites. And if you want to start something new, especially today after this class, I really want to encourage you to start with an hour a day, and also start with what you understand. Like actor first, went to school for musical theater, acting's my heart and my soul. But when I wanted to start writing my screenplay, I did not know what I was doing other than the fact that I had, I'd read hundreds of them for auditions. So I started with the thing that I understood. And as an actor, when you're looking at a film script, what I understood was dialogue, right? We are artists. We have ends to all artistry, right? So even if you're trying to explore one area, use what you know about the area that you find your home in or find proficiency in to begin something new. I do also want to encourage you, making deadlines and sticking to them. It is the easiest way to move something from point A to Z. Because if you keep showing up for yourself and others creatively, I promise you, yes, Blake Allen is on here, the one and only Blake Allen. We're actually producing his album. He's a CCM alum. He's amazing, and he's amazing at hitting deadlines and creating them and doing them, make or break. That's it. One of the last things I want to talk about before we kind of jump into our open forum here is the power of the pivot. This past year, y'all, has been zany and crazy and everything in between. And I just want to encourage you that roadblocks, whether they be in our personal lives, in our creativity, in our entertainment industry, roadblocks always uncover a new path, lesson, or lead to a brand new adventure, right? I think one of the reasons why I found myself a bit more comfortable than some of my colleagues during the pandemic is because 2016 was not my year. I lost my father very tragically after a very quick battle with cancer. And at that same very time, I incurred my largest creative business loss of my life. It was literally happening at the same time in my hometown. And it was the most painful thing that I've ever been through. But what I did learn through that time was how to navigate grief and kind of how grief and our environment can inform and affect our creativity. So I just want to encourage you that even if you feel like you are in creative limbo right now, meaning on the screen with me, even if you're scared, even if you're a junior or senior at school and you're like, how in the heck is, life or New York or LA or Chicago or Texas going to look, when I want to move there for my career? How can I even think about starting a career right now? I just want to let you know that everything you need and everything is required for you to create, you already have inside of you. And all of these outer things that you might want to do, like Broadway or a fancy recording or star in a television show, I promise you that you do hold the keys. This workshop and my book, which I'm actually going to share the galley copy of with you here in a few minutes, it's all a result of a pivot. I was supposed to be in Cincinnati filming my first feature film that I wrote. I was supposed to be filming during the pandemic, and I literally had to pivot overnight. And I'm like, what can I do that is solely me, that does not require anyone else? And I just want to encourage you that you can do this. We can live fluidly creative. Hey, Rachel, thank you. Thanks for being here, honey bun. So, what might your current environment inform you about your art or where it's going? Are you listening to the voices inside, and are you ready to translate your inner experiences? I always like to end one of our workshops and classes with a challenge. And my challenge for you today is, some of you might need to hear this, so I'm going to state it again. Continue to focus on redefining your identity today, getting quiet with yourself, where you are right now because of this pandemic. And I want to fully encourage you to create from this space. And for all of us, today's BYOP challenge, I want to challenge you to be open to fluid creativity. There are no bounds. We should dance in our creativity. We should roll around in it. We are artists, and right? We are our own complete house. And I want to make sure that you feel encouraged to explore all of your rooms inside. So thank you so much. Remember, be your own producer of creativity, of light, and of your future. Namaste. Here, Jamie, can you bring everybody back on the screen so I can see their beautiful faces? Just so we can talk a little bit openly. I guess unpin me, maybe. I don't know how this works.
Yeah.
Such a gallery. Yay! Hi, guys. That's a class. Thank you for being here. I want to open this up here over. Oh my gosh, Mr. Dean Stanley's still here. I want to open this up.
Of course.
To everybody. I want you to share questions, ideas, thoughts. You know, this is a different way of thinking. We go to school and we study one thing, and we're like, that has to be our identity. That's the only thing we're going to do. That's the make or break. And I just want to hear from you. If anybody wants to share, if this has unlocked anything inside of you, if there's anything you feel called to share with the group, please do it. You can do it in the chat. You can unmute yourself. I do want to share one thing with you, and I have not shared it publicly, but I got the first. So this is also a book. I have a book coming out. The publishing date is August 10th, but you can pre-order it right now. And Jamie's going to kindly share the link in the chat. You can also join my mailing list, but here's my book. Here's what it looks like. It's here. It's a real thing. I cannot believe it. If this vibed with you, your heart and your soul, you know, it's a safe space to come, to heal, to create. Yes, it's a safe space. So does anybody have any questions about making your own way, creating your own way, starting a new project, longevity in the arts? Does anybody have any questions? And it can be about the other stuff I do too, TV, film, producing, Broadway. Anybody have any question? Yeah, Lydia. Hey, girl.
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
So I know it's really important for students. I'm a current sophomore acting major at CCM, and they really encourage getting internships, making connections. And so once you graduate, you have those. But it has been really hard since we are in a pandemic to make those connections and actually go to a physical internship. Do you have any recommendations on how to build connections in this new world that we live in now?
I know it sounds crazy, but you're doing it right now. So anything digitally that you can get your hands on to like step into your community or to assert yourself within your community, I know I will not forget you. You know, I'm so thankful that you're here today and sharing your time with me. So this is exactly what you should be doing. Also, I know it sounds weird. Social media is like actually a really great way, and I'm just going to talk strategy with everybody. Social media it's a tool, right? But it's also a really great way to get into the ego and psyche of someone. If we're talking plain strategy, if you want to let them know that Dan's like, if you want to let somebody know you're here for them, support them, and you want to maybe collaborate with them in the future, show up for them online. I know how silly that sounds, but like it's currency these days, you know. My head strategist is on right now. She said yes to that. So just making yourself present, doing things like this, and don't ever be afraid to like send an email, you know, leveling with people and asserting, right, the environment. Kind of one of the things we were talking about today. Feel like, I know this is a crazy time. I know we're in the middle of the pandemic, but I just wanted to say, I really love to meet with you over Zoom or to create an email relationship, right? So that when the time is right, you know, I can meet with you in person, right? In Cincinnati, in New York, in Chicago, right? Just plant seeds because the seeds grow, right? Does that help at all?
Yes, thank you so
Okay,
much.
good. Okay, good. Yes, show up and be seen. Any other questions, thoughts, feeling? Miss Brenda. Hey, Miss
Yeah,
Brenda.
I just want to affirm everything that you've said, and I too lost my dad in 2014 at the same time that I lost my job in arts administration, and but it was like the beginning of a journey for me, this spiritual journey, and so taking loss and moving through that and being really open to what comes next. And so I went from arts administration. I had just finished a yoga teacher training. Ooh. And I decided, well, let's just see where yoga takes me. And you talk about social media. I just responded to different people. It wasn't even yoga related. It was just arts related, actually, that people had said something. And I said, well, I have an arts administration degree, and I'd be very interested in your project, that I want to do something with yoga with it. And they were so open to it. And all of my jobs that I had from that kind of led from that. So it is interesting, even if you don't think it's going to be a match, if you feel your heart or feel drawn to it, just put it out there into the universe and see what happens.
I truly cannot agree more. And I love that yoga became a safe haven for you. It actually, that is one of the things that helped me through a lot. Restorative yoga helped me through my grief a lot. So if any of you ever, even in the pandemic grief, right? It's like, if you need a moment to reset, I'm all about some restorative yoga. It's like feeling like hugging yourself, hugging your soul, right? Yeah, Donna said, describe what you mean by flow and the benefit of being in it. For me, the passion that comes from having a strong starting point, degree from CCM is key, but success has come from being willing to travel the roads. Yes, that opened to me after that. So I think, especially pre-pandemic, right? It's like with our creativity, we had an idea of how this was going to go, right? For me, when I moved to New York, being a CCM musical theater graduate, I literally thought I was going to get to New York, Broadway was going to happen, and it actually was going to be like a job for like a long amount of time, right? But when I made my Broadway debut, I literally got told the show was closing in a day, right? So it's like your security is goodbye, right? So I think it's the idea to find that creative flow is to be open that maybe you're called to do even more than that, and at the same time, right? Look at somebody like, and I write about this in the book, look at somebody like Lin-Manuel Miranda, right? He's like an OG for this kind of fluid creativity. Do you think this man asked permission to make Hamilton? No! He literally developed it by himself for a few years, then brought on his previous teammates from In the Heights, expanded the idea, kept showing up day after day in workshop after workshop, then collaborating and hiring in people like Andrew Chappelle, one of my direct 14 classmates, to come in, work on the workshop version, at the public, and then moved it to Broadway. And right, it's like it doesn't matter he started out just like some of us did. It doesn't matter. We can take that initiative within our own creativity. And I think just allowing ourselves to realize we might be called to actually do more than what we originally thought. And I don't mean that we turn our backs. I'm still acting. I'm literally finishing this and doing a self-tape for a film. The second we're done with this, you don't turn your back on where you began, but you might be able to also do more, right? You don't, if in your heart, if you want to do more in your heart, if you want to write, if you want to sing, if you want to paint, right? Yeah, it doesn't mean you're not an imposter. And let's talk about that for 1 second before we leave. The imposter syndrome, we get it. Every rehearsal process, every time we're doing a painting, right? The imposter syndrome always comes. And I think by acknowledging that you're always going to feel a little insecure and then move through it, right? Just asserting it and acknowledging it, you'll be able to step through. As long as you know it's always going to visit you in every creative process, be like, hey, see you, imposter syndrome, seeing you for making me feel like I can't do this or I'm not good enough. Like, love you, goodbye. Like, the best way through it is to accept it's always going to happen to us. We're artists. It's always going to happen. Say, this is good. This is good for showcase, right? When you're doing your showcase pieces and you're like, yeah, like, what am I doing? Am I making the right choice? Is this the right material? It's always going to come. You're always going to doubt yourself, and then you're going to push on through. Anything else? Want to ask, share? So in the chat, we put a sign up for my little mailing list. If you want to join it, please do. And if you ever want like free advice, I always do BYOP lives. If you want to follow my Instagram, it's at BYOP_NYC. I'm Ashley Kate Adams. Thank you, Jamie. So you can always follow me on Instagram at Ashley Kate Adams. I'm here for you. If you have a creative project or if you want a creative accountability partner, I'm here for you. I'm happy to do that. And please, Ava says, I'm a current student right now. Is now too early to start doing other projects? It is never too early. It is never too early. This is the perfect time and crazy time to add more things to your plate. I know that sounds nuts, but it will give you longevity in the future. It's the perfect time to dive in, Ava. It's the perfect time. And if you want to share that, you can share what it is, and I can give you even more specific support. I'm going to check the chat and make sure that I'm not missing anything from anyone. Oh, Kyle. Hi, Kyle.
Hi, I actually have a question. I am actually launching a virtual murder mystery thing. Tomorrow is actually our premiere production, which I'm very, very excited about.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's been a long few months developing and writing and doing all the technical stuff that I had no idea about before now. But okay, you had talked about copywriting. Is that a really grueling process? Because that's something that I honestly completely forgot to even think about. And I appreciate you bringing it up.
So what you're doing is, it's kind of like a concept and an idea. So I think you could like patent, say like the branding of your title, right? But you could copyright. Is there a script that you all are working from? Yeah, so you could do that. But I know this sounds so silly. The Writers Guild, you can do it in 5 minutes. So just do that to protect yourself.
Amazing.
Yeah, and then yes, it's like if you're going to continue to do this publicly, absolutely look into copywriting it, because that does take multiple weeks to get approved. But just to cover your butt before you do it tomorrow, just register with the Writers Guild. And I think it's like pretty inexpensive. The copyright, I think to like copyright my screenplay and my novel was like $65, but the Writers
Okay.
Guild is cheaper than that. So just do that. Google register script with Writers Guild when we get off here, and then you should be able to do it like immediately. And just you'll upload a PDF of your document.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
So if anybody ever steals anything, you're like, look, it's mine. And then you can put that number registered on the front of your script.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that.
You are so welcome. Anybody else have any nook or cranny questions like that? Nothing is too specific, nothing is too broad. It's our creativity is what it is. Anything else? Oh, I'm so glad you liked this. Thank you all. Thank you for being here, and thanks for showing up. I know it's such a hard time, but good days are ahead, and we can take our time and do the inventory now so that when things are opening back up, we're ready. You know? Who's a current student? Raise your hand. I want to see you. Hi. So, okay, Kevin, what's your life? Where are you at?
I'm in Cincinnati right now. Sophomore year acting major. That's
Rocking and rolling. So
Yeah,
this is almost what you've known, right? It's a more digital version of CCM.
yes. Yeah.
Yeah. How's it going? Is it going all right?
I mean, everyone that's raised my hand are fellow classmates, fellow sophomores. I would say that it's been manageable, but we're
Good.
excited to get back to a non-COVID lifestyle, non-COVID
Totally
CCM experience.
understand. We empathize, you know. I tell like my fellow creatives in the world, it's like, wow, like we're all going through so much, but I couldn't imagine, you know, being a student right now, or even younger student, right? Like a high school kid or middle school. Wow. So, well, we thank you for your resilience.
Thank you.
Yeah. Ava, you want to share something? We got a minute. Do it, girl. Anything you want to share?
I'm also a sophomore acting major. Just
I love it.
trying to find things to do that aren't class.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you have an idea to start rocking and rolling on. So I'm gonna hold you to that. I'm gonna find you on Instagram and be like, how's it going, Ava? How's it going? All right, y'all. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. You're amazing. Find me on Instagram, find me on Facebook. Let's be real life friends. Love you all. Thank you for being here. Yay!
Thank you.
Thank you.
We did it. Love you, Clark. Dan, thank you, Brenda. Thank you, Donna. Thank you for all of your encouraging words. Thank you. It means the world to me. Thank you so much. All right.
Yay.
We're here. We made it to the other side.